Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about 8 makeup products that have been dethroned in my opinion. This video was inspired by a collab that Samantha did with Noel. I saw that video in my subscription feed and I was inspired to do my own version of that video, so credit for this idea does go to Noel and Samantha March, and I'll put their videos down below for you guys to enjoy. But before I get into the meat of this video, I feel like I do have to say these are all my opinions. I'm sure that a lot of people must really like several of these items. I do own several of these makeup products myself, and I have varying opinions on them, but these are just my personal opinions. I do feel that these makeup products must have been very hyped up at some point, but right now I don't necessarily believe that they are that hyped up or that loved or that remembered as they once were. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first item that I do believe has been dethroned is the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. Now this is one that a lot of you guys might disagree with me on, but I do feel that for a time Tarte Shape Tape was the concealer to wear. Everybody was obsessed with Shape Tape. It was like the new big thing. Everybody was so into it. It's basically a full coverage concealer. People really do like it because of the fact that it is full coverage and the applicator is rather large, and it has inspired a lot of copycats, if you will, from people that really do like that applicator and want to implement it in other concealers as well. But long story short, this concealer has really been popular for a very long time, but I do feel that ever since the Tarte Shape Tape foundation launched and everybody was like up in arms about the lack of range in shades when it came to that launch, I feel like Tarte Shape Tape's line in general has been a little bit tainted by that. Not to a huge extreme, but I do feel that it has been enough for the hype around Shape Tape in general, the whole concept of Shape Tape, to go down. I don't necessarily think that everybody is as obsessed with Shape Tape as they once were. There are still people who love and adore Shape Tape, but I don't think that Shape Tape is as hyped up of a product as it was, say, 2 years ago when it first launched. The next item that I definitely think has been dethroned, and I think that my opinion is very strong on this one, and this basically has to do with every single Naked palette that Urban Decay has launched. I'm talking about the Naked 1, the Naked 2, the Naked 3, the Naked Smoky, the Naked Heat, the Naked Cherry, the Naked Reloaded, the Naked Basics. Literally every single Naked palette that Urban Decay has launched is, in my opinion, dethroned. I currently only own the Naked Smoky palette at this point, and I have not used that thing in a while. I think I tried to use it in a tutorial, and I haven't really picked it up since. I just don't use it. Like, I literally do not. And I do think that right now, at this point, almost everybody has completely decluttered the original Naked palette. They don't even make it anymore. Nobody even talks about the Naked 3. The last time I saw someone talk about it was months ago, and I don't think anyone else that I've seen has talked about it since. And I feel like nowadays people are just decluttering the Naked palettes just left and right if they haven't done so already, because I feel like the Naked palettes, they launched at a time that everybody was really looking for basic neutral shadows to wear. Everybody was into that like really neutral look. But at this point, I do feel very strongly that people have just simply gotten bored of that Naked sort of concept. I feel that Naked palettes were so hyped up for so long that it got a little bit stale, and now I do feel that the Naked palettes have been dethroned and people are generally more like leaning towards Anastasia Beverly Hills for neutral eyeshadows. That comes to mind. Morphe is always coming out with neutral palettes and everybody seems to really enjoy those. And I'm just talking about the cookie cutter versions of neutral shadows. Of course, you guys do know that I prefer indie brands for my shadows, but I definitely do feel that the people, the audience that was really interested in the naked palette at one point has shifted to newer and potentially better things. I definitely feel that in so many of the naked palettes, almost all of the shades are shimmery shades, and that is a very outdated concept. Now people usually tend to prefer a palette that is mainly matte with a few shimmer shades. Also, I mean, my personal opinion of the Urban Decay metallic formula that I have experienced is that I personally don't necessarily like how sheer the metallics look. I mean, that is my opinion, but I'm just not somebody that was necessarily ever interested in buying the naked palette. So, I mean, I know my opinion is a little bit biased, but I just don't really like neutral shadows, and I feel that every single person that I used to watch that was really into the naked palettes hasn't mentioned them in the longest time, and I definitely feel that those naked palettes have been dethroned. Next, I want to talk about the MAC lipstick in the shade Whirl. Now, I feel like I could talk about virtually every single MAC lipsticks because you know, like the OG YouTube videos of the YouTube makeup collection videos where people would basically film their makeup collections, and almost every single product in those collections were MAC, or like half of everything that everybody showed was MAC. And you would see like those lipstick organizers, and almost every single lipstick would be a MAC lipstick. Like, that's like OG YouTube. Like, that is OG YouTube at its finest for me. Now, like, I feel that people have just stopped using MAC lipsticks, but I definitely do feel that MAC lipsticks still do hold up in quality, but MAC Whirl used to be like the lipstick that everybody loved, but I do still own it, but I do feel that the hype around that particular shade has died down significantly. I feel like the lipstick bullet format has been dormant for so long. Not everybody has really been interested in using a lipstick bullet in a long time, because for a while liquid lipsticks were all the rage, and now I feel that lipstick bullets are coming back, but I do feel that the MAC lipstick, the MAC Whirl lipstick, has yet to make a comeback, if it ever will. It has definitely been dethroned. There are people out there that probably still do use it, but I just haven't seen anybody talk about it to that same extent that it used to be raved about. The next thing that I want to talk about, the Morphe M439 Deluxe Buffing Brush. Jaclyn Hill was, I think, instrumental in really making this brush a cult favorite. I feel like once Jaclyn Hill started talking about it, a whole bunch of other really big influencers started talking about this brush and how amazing it was and how you absolutely needed it for that full coverage foundation look, and how fast it was and how easy it was. I actually did buy that brush because Jaclyn Hill recommended it, and for a long time I really did enjoy it. It gives you that kind of full coverage look. But since I am now not interested in that full coverage look, I just don't buy, like, I just don't use that brush anymore. I also did find that that brush just does shed whenever I do try to wash it. I haven't experienced that with all Morphe brushes. In fact, a great many of my Morphe brushes I have had no problem with shedding. But I have noticed that the Morphe M439 does shed on, in my experience, and since I now rarely wear any foundation whatsoever, and whenever I do wear a foundation, I wear such a low coverage foundation, the Morphe M439 brush is simply too full coverage of a brush and simply too dense and too small, like too tightly packed of a brush to give me the effect that I want. I now want a less dense, more fanned out, more fluffy face brush to really blend my product in. I don't want something that is as dense as the Morphe M439, and I feel that I don't think that anyone I watch is using the Morphe M439 anymore. I don't necessarily know why. I mean, I guess it's because maybe people's preferences have changed, maybe the trends have sort of shifted. I definitely see a lot more people favoring less coverage than before, but I still do feel that full coverage is a thing to a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know why the Morphe M439 brush has decreased in popularity so much. But I think it's more to do with the fact that maybe people have just moved on to bigger and better things in terms of what they prefer. But I'm not really sure. I feel like that was one of the things on this list that I wasn't really sure why it has decreased in popularity so much, but I definitely do know that at some point everybody was obsessed with it, but now they're not. The P. Louise base is the next thing on my list. This is something that I think a lot of people were obsessed in, particularly in the colorful makeup community up until quite recently. And I think that the P. Louise the P. Louise base gained so much popularity so quickly because Mitchell was talking about it and he was endorsing it. And he is a British makeup artist that specializes in doing super dramatic, almost very theatrical looking, colorful makeup looks. And people were like, oh my gosh, how does he achieve so much vibrancy? How does he have like this colorful makeup? And he was like, it's a P. Louise base. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, this base must be amazing. And everybody that was in the States was like really trying to get it, and it actually does ship from the UK. I do think that people started reviewing it with the rose-colored glasses off, and I have seen as of late a lot more complaints about the P. Louise base than glowing reviews. So I definitely think that the craze around the P. Louise base is dying down, and I do think that it has died out for the most part. People are still using it, but I don't think that people are as enamored by it because I don't think that it works for everybody. I think that it works for like a very select group of people and a very select skin type, and it definitely doesn't perform as well for the general population. So I think that that contributes to the fact that the P. Louise base has not necessarily been the base that everybody is reaching for as of late. Next, I want to talk about Huda Beauty's lashes. Now, Huda's lashes were, those were the lashes that Huda Beauty launched when she first started her brand. They were the first product that she had, and everybody for a very long time, I feel like, were very into those lashes. People were really obsessed with those lashes. I definitely do feel that Huda Beauty's lashes were very like new and very fresh. Like the styles are very beautiful, the look of the lashes are very dramatic. I only did ever use one style and I did enjoy it, but I just felt like it was a little bit too much for me to pay for one lash style. And I know that's me being a little bit cheap, but like seriously, lashes, I don't think lashes should be that expensive. And clearly a lot of people do agree because brands, I mean, one of my favorite brands is House of Lashes, really come out with amazing lashes for a lesser price, and those lashes are very popular. Also, brands like such as Ardell and Eyler do very well, and they have really dramatic lash styles. I just think that Huda Beauty, when they first launched their lashes, they were launching a product into a very niche market, but now we see a lot of brands getting into that niche, and that niche has transformed from a category of makeup that had only a few options to a huge category of makeup that has a multitude of options for different price points. And with that, I think that Huda Beauty has lost that hold that it did have on the market. Not completely, but I do think that the craze for Huda Beauty's lashes has died down. I also want to talk about Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance. Now, a lot of people might disagree with me on this. I still think that Modern Renaissance in my head is synonymous with the Naked Palettes from Urban Decay. At one point, everybody was obsessed with Modern Renaissance, and I do feel like that Modern Renaissance was instrumental with this launch in basically creating a whole new category of eyeshadow, because Modern Renaissance was a palette that launched at a point that everybody was still really into the warm browns, and right at that point the Morphe 350 palette was all the rage, and then Anastasia Beverly Hills comes along and launches a warm-toned, sort of neutral palette with pops and touches of rosy red colors. And at that point in time, that was revolutionary and people were obsessed with it. Modern Renaissance was a palette that had within it several iconic Anastasia Beverly Hills shadows, such as, for example, Burnt Ochre, I believe, and a lot of people really find that palette easy to use and really quite wearable. However, I can't remember the last time somebody used that palette. And I rarely break that palette out, and I still don't really like to use it that much because I truly think that that palette, in my opinion, looks quite neutral. But looking at people who do like neutral palettes, they still don't necessarily use modern Renaissance palettes anymore, and I think it's because the hype around it was so intense that it had to come crashing down at some point, and I think that it already has. Modern Renaissance is not a palette that Anastasia Beverly Hills as a brand necessarily spotlights anymore. They still mention it as an iconic palette, but they don't necessarily hype it up because I do believe that the brand knows that the hype for Modern Renaissance has drastically died down. Next, and this is the last product I want to talk about, I want to mention Kat Von D liquid lipsticks. Now, I could mention like virtually any Kat Von D product because let's just face it, Kat Von D as a brand has decreased in popularity ever since Kat Von D's alleged anti-Semitism has popped up, ever since the anti-vax thing has popped up. Now Kat Von D is more mentioned as Kat Von disease, and I have my own thoughts about Kat Von D, and those thoughts have been constructed into a video or several that I will put in the cards for your enjoyment. But yeah, Kat Von D liquid lipsticks at some point wear just everything. I believe that there was Lolita, that was a really iconic shade, and I still do own it. I can't remember the last time I used it though. Also, Bow and Arrow was a shade that I at some point really wanted to get. Now my mind has changed. But yeah, Kat Von D liquid lipstick, the quality still holds up. However, the image of the brand is greatly tarnished, and that has drastically reduce people's willingness to actually put it on their lips. So that is the end of this video. Those were 8 products that I believe have been dethroned in the beauty industry. Let me know your opinions and your thoughts on these picks down below. I would love to hear them, and I will get back to you. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye guys!